The Serpent and the Steel. Ashur had spent his life in the shadows of giants, a man of whispers and secrets who had outlived the fall of the Great Rebellion. While the fires of Spartacus had consumed heroes and villains alike, Ashur had crawled through the ashes to find his own empire. Now he stood as the master of the ludus, the son of Capua, warming his scarred back. He was no longer the servant. He was the lanista, the weaver of fates. But a house of stone and sand is nothing without the blood that fuels it. In the training pits below, a new force had risen. Vespera, a woman who had survived the northern wars, fought with a ferocity that made even the veteran guards look away. She did not fight for glory or for Rome. She fought with a cold, calculated rage that reminded Ashur of himself. She was the sharpest blade in his collection. That evening, the shadows grew long in Ashur's private study. He summoned Vespera not as a slave, but as a partner in a dangerous gamble. Rome was changing, and the local magistrates were looking to seize the ludus from the man they still considered a low-born traitor. Ashur leaned over a map of the city, his eyes gleaming with the light of a single oil lamp. He needed her steel to protect his silver. Vespera took command of the new recruits, her voice cutting through the humid air like a whip. She showed them that survival was not found in strength alone, but in the rhythm of the strike and the timing of the breath. Ashur watched from the gallery, realizing that she was doing more than training fighters. She was building an army that answered only to them. The threat arrived in the form of Marcus, a Roman official with a sneer that matched the weight of his purse. He came to the gates of the ludus with a legionary escort, demanding a tax that would leave Ashur bankrupt and his fighters in the hands of the state. Marcus looked at Ashur as if he were a stain on the marble floor, unaware of the viper he was treading upon. Marcus leaned in, his voice a low hiss of threats. He spoke of Ashur's past, of the betrayals that had kept him alive, and of the inevitable noose that waited for men of his kind. Ashur listened with a faint, mocking smile, his hands tucked into his sleeves. He had heard the threats of more powerful men than Marcus, and he had buried every one of them. To prove the worth of his house, Ashur arranged a private exhibition. He pitted Vespera against Marcus's hand-picked champion, a mountain of a man named Quintus. The courtyard was silent as the two circled each other. Vespera was a blur of movement, her blade dancing against the brute force of her opponent. She wasn't just fighting for her life. She was fighting to secure their future. The night before the Great Games, the tension in the ludus was a living thing. Ashur found Vespera in the armory, the sound of whetstone on steel echoing through the hall. They spoke little, for their pact was sealed in their shared ambition. They were both survivors of a world that wanted them dead, and together they would make Rome bleed for its arrogance. The arena was a sea of screaming voices and blinding heat. Vespera stood in the center, the blood of her enemies staining the sand at her feet. She looked up at the Lanista's box, where Ashur sat amongst the elite of Rome. With a single nod from him, she delivered the final blow, not just winning the match, but winning the loyalty of the crowd. The ludus was safe. Its master was now untouchable. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the hills of Capua in shades of violet and gold, Ashur and Vespera stood together on the balcony. The noise of the city felt far away. They had survived the rebellion, the politics, and the pits. The serpent and the steel had found their home, and though the world was full of enemies, they would face the coming darkness as equals.